Hey guys, so on Instagram I decided to ask everybody what kind of questions they had for me about ferrets, and I got more than I anticipated I would get, honestly. So because of how many questions I got and how long my answers are, this is going to be a long video, I think. And I hope I answer all your guys' questions, well. Like I said in my previous video, in my introduction video, I'm not a ferret expert by any means. We have 5 ferrets that I love a lot. And yeah, so with that, I'll just jump right in. So the first question is, how many ferrets do we have? We have 5. I only have 3 of them with me right now. The rest are all probably sleeping, which is usually Sebastian and Zaya, because they sleep all the time. So I have 3 with me. You guys want to check out the camera? We have Mika, Vlad, and Eleanor here, but we also have Sebastian and Zaya who are asleep right now. As usual, they are our, most sleepy ferrets. Filming with the ferrets out is very difficult. So we do have 5 ferrets, and we did have another ferret before we got Eleanor. We had Thomas. He passed away in August to lymphoma, and so we did have 5 before, and then we only had 4 for a little while, and now we have 5 again. How and where did we get our ferrets? How did we become ferrets? And how do we feel about them taking up most of our day? Our ferrets came from a local pet store, except for Eleanor, who we got from a breeder in North Carolina called Carolina Ferrets. The other ferrets we have came from this pet store called Fanatics. The first 4 that we got were all from a breeder called Real Canadian Ferrets, and then our pet store switched to Marshall's, so Zaya is a Marshall's ferret. And then with Eleanor, I really wanted an Angora ferret, and so she's super fluffy, and that is why she is from a breeder in North Carolina, so that we could get this little fuzzy fluff, who's put me down so I can keep on digging at things and making noise while you film. Right? The reason we got ferrets in the first place, it all started because 2 years ago I had cats that were mine, and Nick moved in with me, and he didn't have any pets of his own, and he really wanted a pet of his own. So for Christmas a couple years ago, Eleanor and Simon are playing. So for Christmas 2 years ago, I got Mika for him, who is just lounging out on my chair right now. After we got Mika for him, I just fell in love with Mika, and I wanted a ferret all to myself, so I got Sebastian after that, and then it just kind of kept going, and we ended up with 5. As for our ferrets taking up our time, I personally don't mind it at all. I absolutely love them to death. I combined my book nook with my ferret play area so that I could sit in here with them and read in my comfortable reading chair and have them run around and play, and it just works out really, really well. We have a really good system, which is awesome. And I absolutely love my pets. I love spending time with them, and I think that is a huge thing if you're going to have pets, is to make sure you have time for them, especially ferrets, because they do require a lot of time outside of the cage. How much does owning a ferret cost? This is a really good question. It can be a lot. We have 5, so it does cost more than if you were to only have 1 or 2. Thank you. When it comes to the litter, we buy large bags of litter. We buy Fresh News, which costs us about $22 a bag. We buy Origin cat and kitten food, which costs us about $35 for a small bag. And I'd say for the litter, we buy between 1 to 2 bags a month. And then for the food, we buy 2 to 3 bags a month. In total, we probably spend around $80 to $100 a month on the ferrets, just food and litter, which isn't horrible for 5 of them to spend $80 to $100 and also split between 2 people. That's not too bad. But when it comes to starting up, if you're just starting up getting a ferret, for us, with 1 ferret, when I was starting up and I was getting Nick his ferret Mika for Christmas a couple years ago, it was around $500 to start up for the cage, the bedding, the litter boxes, the food, the ferret, everything. It came to around $500 for getting settled and started. What is your routine and how much work is it to own a ferret? Okay. I do shift work. We all in this house do shift work. We work the same job. And so we do 12-hour shifts and we rotate days to nights every 2 weeks. On the days that I work, I wake up at about 3 o'clock and I take the ferrets out until 4 or 4:30. And I will read or I'll use my phone and I'll just let them play and like I'll eat breakfast while they're out and stuff. After work, I will take them out from about 8 until 9:30, 9 to 9:30. And so on the days that I work, they get between 2 to 3 hours out of the cage, which is not actually enough. They do require a minimum of 4 hours a day. So on my days off, I do wake up, like whenever I happen to wake up at, I take them out and I let them run around until they go back inside the cage and go to sleep, which is usually about 2 to 2.5 hours after they've come out. And then I will leave the cage open for them. And usually Eleanor and Vladimir will come back out and they'll play for a bit and then they'll go back in and come back out. They have the most energy of all the ferrets. And then once like they're all asleep and everything and like I'm done reading or I've got other things to do, I will close the cage and I will I'll go about my day for a bit and then I'll come back in the evening and I'll take them out again and I'll do the same thing and I'll let them run around until they want to go to sleep. And once they've decided it's time to go to sleep, I will go and do whatever it is I have to do before I go to sleep, or I'll just hang out and watch TV for a bit and then I'll go to bed. So on the days that I have off, they're pretty much out. Like, it doesn't sound like I take them out for very long on my days off, but on my days off, I'm actually in my book nook pretty much all day. And if I don't have anything else to do, I will leave the cage open and I will be sitting in my chair for like the entire day. And they can come out and play as they please and go back in the cage when they tire. I would say that owning ferrets is a lot of work. I'd say that it is very similar to a dog, except caged. Like I've always said, they're kind of like a mix between a cat and a dog because they have litter that needs to be cleaned and then they need to be brought out for exercise like a dog. Ferrets are high maintenance, but if you're willing to put in the work and the effort, then it's worth it. It's like 100% worth it. Like once you get into a routine with them, it just becomes very easy and it doesn't feel like a chore. It's just a part of your routine. It's just something that you do every single day. And it really helps that I love my animals so much that I actually enjoy spending the time with them a lot. I absolutely love being down here. It's my favorite part of the house. And it just works out really well that it is their area as well. It's awesome. Foods that are good for ferrets. I'm actually newly learning about foods for ferrets. I'm in the process of switching them right now to Origin Cat and Kitten food, and then I was originally feeding them Versilaga ferret food. Ferrets are obligate carnivores, which means they eat meat, and many foods like that are made for ferrets actually have like vegetables in the ingredients, which is very bad for them. I also haven't heard a single good thing about Marshall's ferret food, so stay away from that. I don't know a whole lot about it. I haven't looked into it much because I personally never fed them that, so I didn't really feel the need to research it since I don't even plan to feed it to them. But I have not heard a single good thing. One of the things that I've heard that has deterred me from it is that they actually make their food designed to, over time, make ferrets sick, and so that you go back to them to adopt another ferret. And that's horrible. I don't know if it's true, but I know I haven't heard a single good thing about Marshall's, and I will not be feeding our ferrets their food. It just won't happen. But if you're able to do a raw diet, that is the absolute best thing you can do for your ferrets. I briefly was doing the raw diet thing, but we didn't have the freezer space for it. It just didn't work out. I really hope that maybe if we get a deep freezer in the future, I can do it again, but I don't see it happening soon. But I definitely think that if you're able to, a raw diet is the best thing you can do for your ferrets. So medical cost of ferrets and the importance of finding an experienced vet who specializes in ferrets. Okay, so ferret vet bills can be extremely costly. We learned this the hard way with our late ferret, Thomas. He needed his hind right leg amputated, and that whole entire process ended up coming to around $3,000. 4 months ago, they found out that he had a tumor, and they performed an exploratory surgery, found out there was nothing they could do, and they put him to sleep, and that costed around another $2,000. So within the span of 10 months, he cost us over $5,000 in just vet bills, which we were not prepared for. And that is something that with a ferret, with any animal really, you need to be prepared for, because vet bills are very, very expensive. Now we have another vet bill that we need for our ferret Mika, who has her left top and bottom canines need to be removed, and that is going to be around $2,000 to $2,500 for us to do. And if we don't do it, since there's pulp exposed on the top one, it can get infected, which can make her health decline very quickly and can actually be fatal for her. You want to be aware of the fact that ferrets will need to go to the vet, and their vet bills are very, very expensive. It can be very sudden and the cost can be very high. It's also very important that you find a vet that specializes in ferrets and not just an exotics vet who has maybe dealt with ferrets a handful of times throughout their career. Because if they aren't a specialist, they can make a poor judgment call that could be harmful instead of helpful to your ferret, and you definitely do not want something like that to happen. That would be very bad. It would be unfortunate. Okay, so this one I'm not extremely knowledgeable on. As I said, I am not an expert, but this one is about insulinoma, adrenal disease, and lymphoma. I have only ever dealt with lymphoma, and that's it so far. All of our ferrets are relatively young, just about 2 years and under is how old they all are. So for insulinoma, it is a tumor in the pancreas, and it causes extremely low blood sugar because your ferret's pancreas is releasing too much insulin. I know that there are treatments and surgeries that can be done for it. However, I do not know how effective they are or how long they will give your ferret. Adrenal disease can cause excessive growth of the adrenal glands, tumors, and hair loss. There are treatments for this as well as surgeries, but again, I don't know how effective they are. Lymphoma is what our Tommy boy had. He had a tumor on his small intestine, which had spread like everywhere. He had lost weight and become very skinny and was very lethargic. And normally I know that it can be handled with surgery. However, as I said, his had spread and there was absolutely nothing they could do. I don't know if maybe we had caught it sooner if they could have done anything. Like I said, it was on his small intestine, so that already was not a good sign. You do need to watch your ferrets very closely because their health can decline very, very quickly. So you want to watch for any changes and catch them as quickly as possible. Safe living environment and play area and toys that will not cause blockages. When it comes to a safe play area, you want somewhere that is spacious so they can actually burn energy, which is what they need. You want to make sure that they're not going to have access to anything they can eat that can cause them harm. For instance, so if you have plush toys like this one, if it breaks open, there's fuzz inside of it. And so if this toy were to break open, I would throw it away immediately, because if one of the ferrets ingested any of that fuzz, it could cause a blockage, which would require surgery to fix, and it could be very dangerous for your ferret, and you do not want anything like that to happen. So like I get my dog a bark box every single month, so the toys that he gets in the bark box are actually what the ferrets use. I put all of the toys in the ferret area for them to all play with together. Another thing that's really good for ferrets are cat toys like balls with bells in them. They like these little pom-pom toys that I have. They're like this big, kind of like the size of like a cat toy ball, and like it just looks like a little pom-pom. They absolutely love those as well, or little crinkly ball toys. Those are good. It's just generally if you're going to get plush toys, you want to watch them for any holes in them because those can be very dangerous. Or toys that have, so like if it's like a teddy bear toy or something and it has like those eyes that like stick in, if they can be popped out, those are also not very good because if they ingest one of those, that could be dangerous. Proper bedding for ferrets. Not hamster bedding. Do not use hamster bedding. Just don't. You're gonna want to get them blankets. Like throw blankets are good. I actually got a ton of throw blankets from Giant Tiger for $3 each, and they love them. They work perfectly. I fold them up in their cage. They make a mess of them, but they sleep in them and on them, and they love them. You just have to make sure that when you are using blankets and stuff that you wash them. We wash the ferrets' bedding at least once a week and swap it out. So we have nice, clean bedding in the cage, keeps the ferrets happy and clean, and everything's good. The ferrets stink. No. I think this is the most common like misconception that people have about ferrets is thinking that they stink. I like the way that they smell. All animals have their own smell. Cats, dogs do as well, and ferrets do. It's just the way that it is. I do not think they stink. All my friends that I have had over do not think they stink. They have a little bit of a smell, but it's not bad. It's not overwhelming. I'm sure that if you didn't change their bedding or clean their litter or, you know, anything, I'm sure they would begin to stink. I'm sure. Like, because you're not cleaning their environment it's going to get messy and dirty. We keep everything clean, they don't smell. We also have them in the basement, and you wouldn't know we had ferrets when you come downstairs. If you come around the ferret area, you wouldn't know, other than if you looked around and saw the absolute disaster they leave behind with toys everywhere. But other than that, what kind of cage setup do I use? We use a double Ferret Nation cage. We bought it secondhand on Kijiji, and it is the older version of the Ferret Nation cage, which I actually didn't know when I got it, but it still works just as good. Both of the doors open on the top and the bottom, as opposed to the first cage that we had for them, which was a feisty ferret cage, and only the right side opened, I believe it was. Maybe it was the left. I can't remember. Only one side opened on the top and bottom of it, and it was smaller, which was very inconvenient. Having both doors open makes it easier to access everything in the cage, to fix the bedding or put up little hammocks or give them food and water. It just makes everything easier, and it's a really good sized cage. And I'm pretty sure online it says that it's good to home up to 4 ferrets, and we have 5 in it, and they seem more than content in this cage. They actually all use the top level to sleep. They barely use the bottom level to sleep anymore, and they all typically sleep in a pile. Sometimes they'll sleep in the hammock and stuff, but most of the time, you're so sweet. But most of the time they actually sleep in a pile, so I don't think they have any problems with the size of the cage that they're in. They also love their cage a lot. When they're all playing, when they get tired, they go into their cage to sleep. They don't find places to sleep elsewhere. Like sometimes Mika will curl up with me on my chair. Sometimes they can get into the bottom drawer of my little drawer set that I have where I keep all their bedding, and they'll curl up in there. But for the most part, they do climb back into their cage and sleep inside the cage, which is why it makes it so easy for when I'm done playing with them on days that I'm not working. I just close the cage and I'm done. They're already asleep in there. I don't have to hunt them down, and everything's good. Do we have any regrets regarding the ferrets? No, none at all. They are family. I'd say the only difficult thing regarding them is if you wanted to travel or go camping even, especially since we don't actually have a travel cage for them right now. That would be cozy for 5 ferrets. So if you're going to travel or go camping or something, you need to have someone that can look after them while you're gone, who is experienced with taking care of ferrets. Other than that, I have absolutely no problem with having them at all. I absolutely love them. I love spending time with them. And like I said, it's like the first thing I do when I wake up, and it's one of the last things I do when I'm going to go to sleep. The best bath products for your ferrets and how to keep them calm during bath time. Okay, so we use, for bathing them, we use Marshall's Aloe shampoo. It's made for ferrets. It's the only ferret shampoo I've ever seen anywhere. It's the only reason that I actually use only that one. As for calming them, I have absolutely no idea. My ferrets all hate the bath. They spend the whole time trying to jump out or climbing my arms, and they just hate it. I've never tried it, but I'm assuming if I gave them a treat while they're in the tub, it would calm them down, like something like Ferritone or Ferret Bite, and it would probably make it easier if I only bathed one at a time instead of all 5 at once. But, you know, I like to make things difficult for myself, so yeah. How often do I wash my ferrets, and how often is normal, and does washing too much affect their skin? So I would say wash your ferrets as little as possible unless they get dirty somehow, like if you take them outside and they get into like mud, or if they roll around in their litter box and get poop all over themselves or something like that. Other than that, I would say every 3 to 4 months that you should bathe them. I guess other than that, I bathed them when I got Eleanor because I wanted them all to smell the same so that they would get used to each other a little bit faster. Bathing too much can actually cause their skin to release more oils to try and replace the ones they lost during their bath, which can actually cause them to smell more. And a lot of people don't know that, and when they bathe their ferret and their ferret smells, they bathe them again to try and get rid of the smell, unknowingly making it worse. So you don't want to bathe too often because their skin does need their natural oils. What do ferrets like to eat? So ferrets tend to imprint on food, and it can make switching their diet very difficult. I know when I was switching them to raw, some of them took to it a lot quicker than others, and now that I'm switching them from Versilaga to Origin, I'm mixing it, and at first I noticed they were kind of eating around the Origin, but now not so much. it just takes time to switch them from some foods to other foods. Some ferrets are more picky than others, like I said. Some of our ferrets love treats and other ones hate treats and just won't look at them, or like they'll just walk away from them. Mostly it's just Ferret and Ferritone that we give them as treats because they all absolutely love both of those things. As obligate carnivores, it's important that they don't eat any sugary foods or fruits or vegetables or anything like that because those are not actually good for them. The maximum weight and height of a ferret. I am not too sure about what the maximum height would be. As for the weight, I'm pretty sure they typically weigh between 1 and 4 pounds, but I don't know if there's like a maximum weight for them. I have no idea. Is it better to adopt a younger ferret or an older ferret? That really depends on a lot of things, I think. Adopting a younger one would make it a lot easier as far as like training goes, like to train them not to bite and to train them to use the litter box and whatnot. Whereas an older ferret, if it's not trained to do those things, it could be a little bit more difficult to get them to do those things. However, I think if you're willing to put the time in to train a kit to do those things, then you should be willing to put the time in for an adult ferret to train them to do those things, even if it takes a little bit longer. Either way, you're gonna have to like adjust with the ferret and work with the ferret regardless. I think it's mostly about preference, whether you would like to adopt an older ferret who needs a home, or whether you would like to adopt a younger ferret and watch that ferret grow from a baby up until an adult. All of our ferrets we got when they were kits. We have not adopted an older ferret. I actually wouldn't even know where to go where I live to get an older ferret. I have no idea where I would go. And the last question is, do you agree with having a ferret descented? This is a really good question because I haven't actually ever thought about it before. All of our ferrets, when we adopted them, were already descented. We did not have a say in the matter or a choice or anything like that. They were all just already done. And I have recently learned that removing the ferret's scent glands does nothing to change how they smell at all. Therefore, I think it's an extremely unnecessary surgery to perform on them. It makes no sense. Like I said, we didn't have a choice or a say in the matter. They were already all descented when we got them. But if we did have a choice, I would say no, that we wouldn't do it because there's literally no point. But that also being said, all of our ferrets are completely fine. They don't seem affected by that they don't have scent glands. They don't seem bothered. They don't seem like they're in pain. So I'd say that they're all pretty good. Right. So that was all the questions that I got. There were 18 questions, so I hope this video wasn't too long and too boring. And I hope that I answered your questions as well as you hoped I would. If you have any more, feel free to comment down below and I'll try to the best of my ability to answer them. Yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video and I will see you in my next one. Bye!